Hello everyone and welcome. Today we'll be doing Joan of Arc, which is lesson 1.5 in your English textbooks. For this lesson, we will first be understanding, or we will first get to know about the entire story itself before we actually get to the lesson, because this lesson is part of um, a, a pretty big part of history. And in your textbooks, it's only a few conversations between about three, four people. Okay, we first see that this particular lesson, Joan of Arc, was written by playwright George Bernard Shaw. He was an Irish playwright and a critic. He wrote more than 60 plays during his lifetime, including major works such as Man and Superman, Pygmalion, and Saint Joan. He was the leading dramatist at his time, and he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1925. Okay, now playwright, as you see here, is obviously a person who writes plays, and this is what one of the plays that he's written is Joan of Arc. Okay, and when you see the word critic, we are talking about a person who gives his expert opinion on a particular topic. And by when I say expert opinion, he also criticizes the work done. Okay, so if you say he's a movie critic, it means that it's a person who has knowledge of movies and who talks about details about that particular movie. Okay, so this is the playwright. Getting to know a little about Joan of Arc, the main character in today's video. Joan of Arc, or some people know her as the Maid of Orleans, is considered a heroine of France for her role during the Lancastrian phase of the Hundred Years' War, and was canonized as a Catholic saint. Her name when she was born she was born to Jacques d'Arc and Isabella Romain as a peasant family. Now, when you say peasant family, they are people who are shepherds who stay in villages and who bring up goats and sheep for a living. Okay, and she was from the small town of Domremy. Okay, now this is a northeast um, little town in France, and it's very important because later on we will be seeing a map in this video, and this is the place where she is born. This is the place where she starts her journey from. And when you see a lesson, the lesson talks about the beginning of this journey before she makes a name for herself. Okay, so Domremy is a little city that she was born. Okay, in the year 1412, and she dies in the year 1431, which means that she was only about 19 years old when she was killed. Okay, at only the age of 19, she has become a legend. Okay, and there are many stories and poetry is told about her, and what people don't accomplish in many years of life, in a very small span of her life, she has made a big name for herself. Okay, how she does it is what we will be talking about before we actually start the lesson. Okay, now you see her, she was from a Roman Catholic church. She was beatified in on 18th April 1909. Okay, and canonized. Okay, so canonized is this is the process of a person becoming a saint. Okay, now 16 May 1920. Okay, so if you see, is when she was canonized. Now she died in 1431. Okay, so this is so nearly about 500 years after she dies is when she was canonized a saint. Okay, and her feast is on 30th of May every year. Okay, now before we move on, let's talk about the main people, places that come up in the entire chapter. First, the person which is introduced to us in today's lesson is a person called Robert. Now, Robert is a captain. Okay, and by captain, he's a military presence in France, and apart from him, there is a steward, which is like a servant or an attendant to Robert. The third character is the main character, Joan of Arc or Joan, and another person who's mentioned by name is Poligny. Bertrand de Poligny was a French nobleman. Nobleman means a person who has money and power and who is considered pretty high in France. Okay, Domremy is one of the places that is mentioned in your lesson. Obviously, this is the place where Joan of Arc was born. Okay, then you see another place called Chinon. Okay, Chinon is the place where Charles the Seventh was. Okay, during the watch, Charles the Seventh, who was not king at that time. Okay, but later on he becomes king because of Joan of Arc. So he was in Chinon. Orleans is another important place which is mentioned. One of the major wars that took place at that point of time was at Orleans. And Reims. Reims is a big major city at that point of time, which, if any king had to take oath and become king, it had to be done in the place called Reims. Okay, now for the other person, Dauphin. Dauphin is the person who's the eldest son of the current king, who is next in line to become the king. Okay, so technically he's king, but he is not actually king till he takes the oath, and he has to take the oath in Reims. Okay, he has to take the oath in this particular place, Reims. And a dauphin is an unanointed king. Okay, at that point of time it was Charles the Seventh. So his name comes up in the chapter as well. The other names that come up in the lesson are John Godsave, Dick the Archer, and John and Julian of Horncourt. So these are the names that you have to keep in mind because they will be coming up in the chapter and the places, of course. Okay, now just to give you a background of the particular story or the lesson that we will be looking up, is at that point of time a war was being fought between England and France, which started in the year 1337 and went on up to the year 1453. And it has come to be known as the 100-Year War. Okay. Joan, at that point of time, was a peasant girl born in East France, who led the French army to several victories during this war. So, during this 100-Year War, Joan, who at that time was just a peasant girl, a farmer girl, okay, and she was born in the Eastern France, and she was the one who led the French army to several victories. Okay, there was, because as you would see, 100-Year War means uh, because of over the years and years and years of fighting, the soldiers were very tired and they had lost hope. France was just about to lose the war when Joan of Arc takes over and she fights for France and leads them to victory. Okay, this play begins at a time when all of the northern France and some parts of the southwest were under foreign control. The English controlled some parts and the Burgundians controlled the other. The city of New Orleans, one of the few remaining French cities, was held by the English. Okay, so you see that at that time France, I'll be showing you a map later on. So at that time, France was being raided by two different parties. One was the English, and the second were the Burgundians. Okay, both of them were trying to take over, and the city of New Orleans was at that point of time surrounded by the British force, the English force. Okay, and it was becoming very difficult for the French to keep that city, and that was like a major city. If New Orleans would have fallen, slowly, the entire French country of France would have been taken over by the English. Okay, so it's the year 1429. Captain Robert de Baudricourt, a military officer, is seated at the table. His steward stands facing him. Okay, so when we get to the chapter, we are still not going to the chapter because I'll be explaining a little more about the entire story before we get to the actual chapter. But when we get to the chapter, you will see that Captain Robert de Baudricourt, who is a military officer, is seated at his table, and his steward, which is his servant, is standing facing him. Okay. Now, to give you a little brief of Joan. Now, at that point of time, Joan was a person who was a peasant girl. We've already seen that. She's from a village. Okay. She's pretty well built because being from a village, obviously, a person is a little well built because they're doing a lot of physical labor at that point of time. Now, during this course, when she's about, say, about 16, 17 years old, she starts to get visions. Okay. And by saying visions, what happened? Joan claims that the voices were of angels and saints through whom God was addressing her. So, what she had to say that the visions and the voices that she hear are that of angels and saints, and God is speaking to her through these angels and saints. Okay, she identified the saints as Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. All of them are crucial French saints. Okay, this is some pictures which were painted later on in life. So this is Joan of Arc, and this is Saint Michael. Okay, so it depicts, it's a depiction of Saint Michael talking to Joan of Arc. Okay, and this is a picture of Saint Catherine and Saint Margaret talking to Joan of Arc. So you see, at different times and at different places, these saints have appeared to her to talk to her. Now, this is why she has great confidence in what she is about to do next. Okay, now just to give you a brief, this is modern France, what we know as today. So if you see here, this entire part, it is better seen in this map. So this particular part, the little pinkish side, is the territory which is controlled by Henry the Sixth, which is England. Okay, at that point of time, King Henry the Sixth was ruling England, and this particular part was captured by him. Okay, this is where the English forces were. Now, if you see here, that's about, say, about all these parts were captured by the English forces. Then you see the purple color shade that was captured by the Duke of Burgundy, or earlier we had seen them as Burgundians. Okay, if you see even modern France, it's got cities and states named behind Burgundy. Okay, so this is modern France, and this is a map of at the time of the Hundred-Year War. Okay, this map is from 1429. Okay, now let's get back to Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc was, okay, let's take this a little big. Joan of Arc was staying in this little city over here. Okay, you can see this written in white, don't worry. This is where she was. Now, when your chapter starts, see, your entire chapter starts and ends over here only. Nothing of the future is told about you, or rather told you about in this particular chapter. Okay, so we are only going to, in your chapter, see the conversation taken between Captain and John in this particular place. I am just giving you a brief of the entire story. Okay, in short, because we don't want to waste a lot of time on this. So, what happens is Joan of Arc takes a couple of people from Captain, and she travels all the way. Now, if you see here, this is already English control. Okay, she comes from English controlled France, comes through Burgundian controlled France, and then comes into Chinon. Okay, so she makes this entire journey only with a handful of people. And this entire chapter is based on the conversation that Joan has with Captain and her asking for people and some armor to go to Chinon. Okay. Now the reason she wants to come in Chinon, because at that point of time, Charles the Seventh was sitting in Chinon. Okay. And one of the major cities was New Orleans. So what had to happen was Joan of Arc comes all this way through enemy ground, comes to Chinon, convinces Charles the Sixth, Charles the Seventh, to give her the army, give her control of the army. After she gets control of the army, she goes to New Orleans. This is the major city, as you can see here. These major parts are where the major wars took place. Okay, so she comes to New Orleans and is able to win all these places and finally take over Reims. Okay, and once they are in Reims, King Charles VII takes oath as the King of France, and after that, they are able to slowly take back France from the English and the Burgundians. Okay, so that is why Joan of Arc is known to be the heroine of this entire Hundred-Year War. She plays a very major part in that. Yes, later on, what happens is the Burgundians are able to capture Joan of Arc. Okay, they are able to have like a little plan, and they are able to capture Joan of Arc. Once the Burgundians capture Joan of Arc, they give her to the English. Okay, And the English at that point of time, because it's in the 1400s, so at that point of time she is trial put on trial for being a witch. Okay, why? Because it's they believe that a small girl who's just not even a proper adult, just 18, 19 years old, and she leads the French army and beats the English. They are not able to completely get over that, and therefore they put her on trial, saying that she's a witch because she can only win because of her doing magic. Without her doing magic, how a small little girl could beat a big strong army of the English? Okay, and that is why once Joan of Arc is captured by the Burgundians and handed over to the English, she is then put on trial and they burn her alive. Okay, they actually put her on a pile of fire and they burn her alive. Okay, because at that point of time, the punishment for a person being a witch was that she was supposed to be burnt alive. Okay, so this is the entire story of Joan of Arc. The entire story is not covered in your lesson. Okay, it's only the conversation between Captain and Joan in the beginning, and she is asking for few people to go with her to meet Charles the Seventh. Okay, so now we come to the actual chapter. As we had seen earlier, that Captain Robert de Burgundy Court, the military officer, is seated at his table. His steward is standing facing him. Now, we will see that the most of your lesson is in a conversation where two or more people are talking to each other. First, says Robert, I told you to throw that girl out. You have 50 armed soldiers and dozens of strong servants to carry out my order. Are they afraid of her? The steward replies, no, sir. We are afraid of you, but she puts courage in us. She really doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. Perhaps you could frighten her, sir. Okay, so you see here in the opening statement itself, Robert has asked his steward to throw the girl out. Now, why he is saying this is because this girl, Joan, has come to Robert earlier as well. Okay, she had come about 2 years earlier asking for Robert to help her out to be able to take control of the French army and go and fight for France against the English. So 2 years back, since she was very young, Robert has already sent her back home once. Okay, so now this is the second time that she has come. Now the difference is that when she has come, her steward says, Robert Stewart says that she doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. Okay, so the way this girl is now moving and talking and looking at people, it seems that she is not afraid of anything. Robert, grimly means he is now very serious because last time he had already thrown her out, and this time even his steward is taking her side. So he becomes a little serious and he says, perhaps, where is she now? Down in the courtyard, sir, says the steward. Okay, so Robert goes to the window and asks the soldiers to send the girl up. Okay, so when Robert comes to know from his steward that she is standing down, he tells his other soldiers which are standing down to send the girl up. Okay, The girl enters. She is a well built, strong country girl of about 17 to 18 years old. The sire's glare neither frightens her nor stops her. She speaks confidently. Okay, when you say the sire is a person of high ranking, and he was a captain, Captain Stewart. So he was a high ranking officer, that is why he was called sire. Joan then says, "Good morning, Captain Sire. You are to give me a horse and armor and some soldiers and send me to the Dauphin." Now look at the confidence that this girl has. You are to give me. She is not asking, she is actually telling him what to do. Now you see here that she is also asking for a horse and armor. Now armor is a protective clothing of metal or leather worn in battles by soldiers in the former time. So at that point of time, the only way to be protected was to wear armor. Normally it was of metal. Okay, and she is telling captain to send her to the Dauphin. Dauphin is who? Is the person who is next in rank to become the king. So after he takes the oath, he will become king of France. So you see that she is not asking him; she is actually in a way telling him or commanding him to be able to send her there. Robert, this girl is mad. Why didn't you tell me so, you blockhead? Sir, do not get angry. Give her what she wants, says the steward. Robert replies, I shall send you back to your father with orders to put you under lock and key. So you see here, Robert thinks that this girl is mad and he calls his steward a blockhead. Blockhead is a stupid or a foolish person. Okay, he's saying, so you're a fool, you should have told me this girl is mad. I wouldn't have brought her up here. Okay, so the steward says not to get angry and give her what she wants and send her. Okay, now Robert had earlier, remember I told you that he had already sent her back home. So again he says, I shall send you back to your father. That means he will chase her and send her back to her father. Only this time he says, I will put you under lock and key. That means he will ask his father to lock her up into a place so that she doesn't get out. Okay. Joan, you think you will, sire, but it won't happen that way. You said you would not see me, but here I am. Robert, so you are assuming that I'll give you what you want. Yes, sire. A horse will cost 16 francs. It is a big amount of money, but I can save it on the armor. I don't need beautiful armor made to my measure. I can find a soldier's armor that will fit me well enough. I shall not want many soldiers. The Dauphin will give me all I need to free Orleans. Robert, shocked. To free Orleans? Joan, she simply, smilingly, very calmly says, yes, sir. 3 men will be enough for you to send me with. Polly and Jack have promised to come with me. Okay, now you see here, Joan has already done her homework. When she walks into Robert's place, she has already spoken to people. Some of the people she mentions here is Polly and Jack. Okay, so over here she when she says that all I am asking you that whatever I want, you will give it to me, and I will go to meet the dolphin. Okay. So what else she says she wants? She wants a horse, and she says since a horse will cost 16 francs, okay, which is the French version of rupees, so 16 francs, and at that time 16 francs was quite a bit. We remember we are talking about the 14th century. Okay, so she says, and apart from that, you can save your money on the armor. I don't want very well made or beautiful armor. Any soldier's armor I will take, and just give me a few people, and I will go to free Orleans. Now, when he says to free Orleans, Robert is shocked because this year war has been going on for a very, very long time, and this 16, 17, 18-year-old girl is telling him that she is going to meet the king. The king is going to give her an army, and she is going to free New Orleans. She's going to free entire place from the English. She's going to fight the English. So Robert at that point is shocked. Okay, we've already seen what a dauphin is the oldest son of a king of France, the one who would become the king after his father. So we've discussed that. Okay, you mean Monsieur de Poligny? Okay, now Monsieur is what? It's a French word for Mr. Okay, so here he's referring to Monsieur de Poligny. Remember earlier I told you that this is one of the people we will be talking about. The four people, major characters in this particular lesson. One of them is Monsieur Poligny. Joan replies to him, yes, sire, Jack will come willingly. He is a very kind gentleman and gives me money to give to the poor. I think John Godsave will come, and Dick the archer, and their servants, John of Honcourt and Julian. There will be no trouble for you, sire. I have arranged it all. You have only to give the order. So you see here, Joan has already spoken to quite a number of people, and most of them are ready to go with her. They just have to wait for the order of Robert. Okay, because Robert is the captain, and therefore he has to give the orders for the others to follow it. But before the orders only, she has already made her plan. She already knows what she is supposed to do. Okay, so you see here, a number of people are ready. John Godsave, Dick the archer and their servants, John of Honcourt and Julian are all ready to go with her. Okay, now Robert asks, who is he asking? He's speaking to the steward. He says, is this true about Monsieur de Poligny? Yes, sir. And about Monsieur de Metz too. They both want to go with her. Okay, so you see here when Robert asks the steward says not only Monsieur de Poligny but Monsieur de Metz also is willing to go with this girl. Robert then he goes to the window and shouts into the courtyard, send Monsieur de Poligny to me, will you? And he turns to Joan, get out and wait in the courtyard. Okay, now at this point of time, Robert is a little taken back because he was not expecting that his own people will be taking the side of Joan. Okay, so Joan starts smiling. She's smiling brightly at him. Okay, right, sire, and she goes out. Okay, Robert to the steward, go with her. Stay within call and keep your eye on her. I shall have her up here again. The steward retreats hastily. Bertrand de Poligny of France a French guard, enters, salutes, and stands waiting. So, Bertrand de Poligny is the name of the person that they were talking to. He was called Monsieur de Poligny or Mr. de Poligny. So, Bertrand now enters. He is a French guard, and as most guards would, he would salute the captain and stand in front of him. Okay, in the meanwhile, what he has done, Robert has told the steward to go and follow that girl and stay with her and keep within calling distance. So when I want her, I will ask her to come back here. Okay, Robert. She says you, Jack, and Dick have offered to go with her. What for? Do you take her crazy ideas of going to the Dauphin seriously? Poligny, very slowly, because remember he's a soldier and he's talking to a captain, so he's a little being very cautious with what he's saying. There is something about her. It may be worth trying. Oh, come on, Polly. You must be out of your mind, says Robert. Okay. So what has happened? Robert is saying that I heard that you, Jack, and Dick are willing to go with her. It's such a stupid idea, right? Because she is going to travel all the way from that small town, go through English captured territory, go through Burgundian captured territory, only to go meet the Dauphin. So it's a risky journey, and there are just few of you all. So he thinks it's not a very good idea. So Poligny tells her that there's something about her, and it may be worth trying. You never know, because the war is going on for such a long time. If this works, you never know. France may win, is what he thinks. Okay. So Robert, of course, he thinks even Polly is out of his mind. Okay. Now, however, after that, Poligny is unmoved. What is wrong with it? The Dauphin is in Chinon. We are talking about another city. I told you where the Dauphin was sitting. So he's sitting in Chinon, like a rat in a corner. Except that he won't fight. The English will take Orleans. He'll not be able to stop them. Okay, so we've seen the map. So we've seen the map that first she goes from this small town to Chinon and then she goes to New Orleans. So once the town of Orleans is captured by the English, the Dauphin is sitting like a little mouse in Chinon. He is not fighting. He's just there. So once the city of Orleans falls or is taken over by the English, then there is no stopping them. They will take over entire France. Okay. So that is why he's showing his concern. Robert then says, he beat the English the year before last at Montegris. I was with him. So Robert remembers that the Dauphin had already beat the English a few years back at Montegris. And I was with him. That means Robert was with the Dauphin at that point of time. So Poligny replies, but his men are coward, and now he can't work miracles. And I tell you that nothing can save our side now but a miracle. So Poligny now replies that, sir, that was quite a number of years back. Right now, the men that he has are all cowards. Cowards are who? Are people who are frightened, who will not fight, they will run away from a fight. Okay. And he can't work a miracle. Okay. So, he may have won the battle once, but that doesn't mean that he can make this miracle happen again and again and again. Okay. And it's even more difficult because most of his men are all frightened and cowards because they've been fighting for so many years. Robert says, miracles are all right, Polly. The only difficulty about them is that they don't happen nowadays. Okay, so Robert kind of agrees with Polly and he says, yes, miracles are right, correct. The only problem is nowadays these miracles don't happen. Okay, so Polly says, I used to think so. I'm not so sure now. There is something about her. I think the girl herself is a bit of a miracle. Anyhow, this is our last chance. Let's see what she can do. So, Polly is very confident. He says, see, we have tried everything else. Others have tried so many other things as well, but nothing has worked. And somehow this girl is special. Why he says that she is special? Special because he has heard about the stories that Joan talks to saints and angels, and God is on her side. That is why Polly feels that this girl is already like a miracle, and he says, "This is like our last chance. Let's try. Let's see what happens." Robert, waveringly. So wavering means he is a little hesitant. He is doubtful. Now he is confused. First he was a very straightforward no. Now hearing this, he is a little doubt. He doesn't know what to do. So he says, "You really think so? Is there anything else left for us to think? Let's take a chance. Her words have put fire into me." So Polly gets a chance, and since he sees that Robert is a little doubtful or he's hesitating, he says, is there anything else left to do? We've tried everything else, so let's take a chance. Her words have put fire into me and I'm ready for it. So Robert kind of gives up. Gives up means not the war, but he gives up the argument. And he's like, phew, you're as mad as she is. Okay. So he is now kind of giving into what Joan wants. Okay. Obstinately, or rather, Polly now is now become a little stubborn in a firm manner, very positive and very stubbornly. He says, "We want a few mad people now. She were, see where the same ones have landed us." Okay, so he's being stubborn and he's saying, "See, sir, this is a time that we need mad people because such a long war and it won't get over. So we need some mad people. Some sane, I think this is sane, SANE. Okay, so by sane, he's saying sane are the people who are in the senses. They know what they're doing. But what Paulingi is trying to say, if they knew what they were doing, we wouldn't have been in this long war. So let's listen to some mad people now. Okay, Robert then says, I feel like a fool. Still, if you feel sure. I feel sure enough to take her to Shannon unless you stop me. Do you think I ought to have another talk with her? So, Polly says that let's listen to her. She's a fool or not. Let's do one thing. We'll help her. We'll take her to Shannon. Unless, because he's the captain, so he has to give the order. If he says no, then Polly will not go with her. So he says, unless you stop me, I will take her to Shannon. And Polly then goes to the window and says, yes, Joan, come up. Okay, so he calls Joan into the room. Joan enters and in a very serious way, gravely or other serious way, Polly says, be seated, Joan. Okay, so Polly is showing that he is very serious about what talks is going to happen next. Robert asks, what is your name? Joan replies, they always call me Jenny in Lorraine. Here in France, I am Joan. The soldiers call me the maid. So you see, Joan introduces her that when she is in the little city of Lorraine, they call her Jenny. But when she is in France, she is called Joan. And some of the soldiers, they call her the maid. So there are three different names that she is known by. See, right now that she has not got the name Joan of Arc. Okay, she's just Joan when she's in France. Robert says, "How old are you?" 17. So they tell me it might be 19. I don't remember. So Joan now doesn't remember her age, but she thinks that she is between 17 and 19 years old. Okay. Robert, I suppose you think raising a siege is as easy as chasing a cow out of the meadow. You think soldiering is anybody's job? Okay, so when you talk about raising a siege, we are talking about taking a side and attacking the opposition forces, which is surrounding a place. Now, at that point of time, Orleans was surrounded by the English. So, when Robert says, "You suppose you think raising a siege is as easy as chasing cows out of a meadow." Why does she say that? Because Joan, remember, is a peasant girl. Peasant girl means she is dealing with cows and goats and sheep most of her life. So he tells her it is not as easy as that. Soldiering is not anybody's job. Anybody cannot just get up and become a soldier and lead the army. It is not that easy. Joan, I don't think it can be very difficult if God is on your side. Okay, so what Joan says is God is on our side, so it cannot be very difficult also because God is there to help. Have you ever seen English soldiers fighting? Have you ever seen them plundering, burning, turning the countryside into a desert? Have you heard no tales of the prince who is the devil himself, or of the English king's father? Okay, now first, plundering is what the English used to do is when they used to raid a town, they used to loot it, take away all the food grains and any valuables that they can find. Okay, apart from that, they used to burn the entire place down and the entire countryside. Countryside is the farm area. So that entire farm area used to be converted into a desert. Desert is a place where only there's only sand. There's nothing else over there. So they used to convert it. Everything used to be destroyed. Okay, and the Prince of England is also known as the devil himself. That means he was very cruel and he was very ruthless towards people. That's why he was even called the devil. So Joan replies, "You do not understand, sir. Our soldiers are always beaten because they are fighting only to save their skins. And the shortest way to save your skin is to run away. But I will teach them all to fight for France. Then they will drive the soldiers before them like sheep. You and Polly will live to see the day when there will not be a single English soldier on the soil of France." Okay, so what Joan is saying is she thinks that according to her, okay, all the French soldiers at this current point of time are very frightened. Okay, and the only reason that they are fighting is because they want to save their lives. Now, what happens is if you don't join the army, the king who's ruling you will kill you, and if you join the army, the opposition will kill you. So, the better option is to join the army, go for a fight, and then whenever the time is right, run away from it. So, if they run away, they're not killed and they are able to save, they're able to stay alive. So, Joan thinks that she will be able to teach these soldiers to fight for France. And if she is able to inspire them and she is able to lead them, then France should be able to win the war. And she thinks that Robert and Polly both will live to see that no English soldiers are in France anymore. Okay, so to this Robert replies. He says, "This may all be nonsense, Polly, but the troops might just be inspired by it through nothing that we say seems to be those. Sorry, but the troops might just be inspired by it, though nothing that we say seems to put any fire into them. Even the Dauphin might believe it, and if she can put some fight into him, she can put it into anybody." So Robert now has started to believe in this plot. Okay, so he's talking to Polly and he says to Polly that if the troops can get inspired, okay, and she's able to put fire into them and she's able to talk to the Dauphin and put fire into the Dauphin, then this plan may actually work. Okay, Robert then turns to Joan. So first you see he was talking to Polly, now he's talking to Joan. "Now you listen to me and don't cut me before I have time to think. Your orders are that you are to go to Chinon under the escort of this gentleman and three of his friends." Okay, so now Robert, what happens is he has now made a decision and he tells Joan that don't cut me off because don't give me time to think. I have now made up my mind and I'm giving you the orders. If you talk in between, I will start thinking and I may change my order. So don't talk in between, keep quiet, he says. Okay, and he says that your orders are, he gives Joan the order to go to Chinon under the escort of Polly and his friends. Okay, so Joan becomes very excited. "Oh, thank you, sire." Now, Polly says, "How is she to get into the royal presence? That means we may reach Chinon, but how will she meet the king or the dauphin?" Okay, so Robert replies, "I don't know. How did she get into my presence? I will see her to Chinon, and she can say that I sent her. Then let come what may, I can do no more." So Robert says, "Okay, you do one thing. You take her to Chinon. How she will get in, I don't know. I will reach her to Chinon with your help, and you tell them that I have sent you." That means Captain Robert has sent Joan. And after that, whatever happens, we will see. Okay. Joan then replies. She says, "And the dress? I may have soldiers. I may have a soldier's dress, sire. Take what you please. I wash my hands of it." Okay. So when now Joan knows that she's getting what she wants, so she reminds him for the dress. And by saying dress, we are talking about the armor that she will wear on her travel to Chinon. Okay. So Robert says, "I wash my hand." Wash my hand means I have no responsibility whatsoever. You take what you want. No problem. Okay. So Joan then, she's very excited by the success that she has because she had come here 2 years back and she was chased out. This time she's successful. So she is very confidently and she dashes out and she says, "Come on, Polly." Now see here, she's already starting to order him around. Okay. Robert. He says goodbye and he's shaking his hands with Polly and he says, "Goodbye, old man. I am taking a big chance. Few other men would have done it. But as you say, there is something about her." Okay, so what happens in the end? Robert and Polly are shaking hands, and Robert is saying bye to Polly because he's supposed to go with Joan. And he says that, "See, this is a big risk that I'm taking. Most men would not take this risk. But as you said, that there is something special about this girl." Okay, And in the end, Polly says, yes, there is something about her. Goodbye. So, Polly finally says his goodbye to Captain Robert before they start their journey. So, this was your entire lesson of Joan of Arc. Okay, few things that you have to keep in mind is the names and the places that we had spoke about. Okay, once you keep that in mind, we were in this character we had Robert, we had the Stuart, Joan, and Polly or Polingi. Okay, the other places that were mentioned in the lesson: Domri, that is where Joan was born. Chinon is where Charles the Seventh was at the moment. Orleans was a big city that was surrounded by the English. Reims was the main, you can say, like the capital, where the oath ceremony had to be done so that the Dauphin can become the king. Okay, and the other names in the lesson were the Dauphin, John Godsafe, Dick the Archer, John of Honcourt, and Julian. Okay, then you have to remember that this was a 100-year war. Okay, it was called the 100-Year War, although it was slightly more than 100 years, but it was called the 100-Year War. Okay, between France and England. And the other people who were also in the war were the Burgundians. Okay, so the northern part were controlled by the English, and the northern east part of it was controlled by the Burgundians. Okay, then this is the map of the place. Remember, this is also like an arc created. So Joan travels all the way from this small little city to Chinon, where she meets Charles the Seventh, who's a Dauphin at that time. She then frees the city of Orleans and makes her way. Joan of Arc and Charles the Seventh. Okay, this coronation. The coronation takes place in this place, Reims. Okay, and at the time when Charles the Seventh was made king, Joan of Arc was also present at the ceremony of taking oath and him becoming the king. So I hope that you are able to understand this lesson properly. Please make sure that you subscribe this video or this channel. You can also click on the bell icon to make sure that you are getting notifications whenever I upload new videos for you. Thank you.